morning, everyone. It is Saturday in the village. Just want to give all of y'all an update on the goings on here in the village and other places, especially at Midnight Publishing. I have to give a shout out to my son, Jay Thomason. You know, as a mother of a man, sometimes I don't always know what he is thinking because he lives his own life, and I encourage that in my children. I train them and raise them to be independent, free thinkers and to live their own lives and to love their spouses because their spouses come before anybody else. So, my son who lives in Texas sent me a message last night and he said, Mama, one of my conductors is going to reach out to you, and he gave me the guy's name. He said, I told him about you. And that sort of left me wordless because I know my son loves me and I know he is proud of what I do. But for him to let others know what I do, that touched my heart in ways that he will never, ever, ever know. I love him for it. I appreciate him for it. So, Jay, my darling son, thank you so much. That being said, his conductor reached out. He is interested in my work. He's interested in writing. So instead of friending me, he just followed me on my personal page. So I friended him and I told him to join the Midnight Publishing group so that he could see what we do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we get authors. We get people who are interested in what we do and why we do it. We get people who have a dream. Sherry Ann Richardson is a prime example of our being dream makers. Two books of hers that she wrote and wanted out there and waited a long, long, long time to make them real. And they're both out there. Under the Dragon's Eye, which is an amazing book. Oh, it's amazing. And her A Chocolate Lover's Garden. She is going to an event in September for chocolate lovers. She is taking her Chocolate Lovers Gardens books with her. I am so, so, so proud of her. It's an 800-person event. As soon as I get more information from her, I will post that for her. So if you're in that area, go see her because she's an amazing human being. She has had some trials and tribulations and obstacles to overcome, but she stood fast and she overcame them, and I could not be more proud of her as an author and as a human being. Sherry, love you lots. Love my son. So, all of that being said, I went to lunch on Wednesday with Mary Brotherton, as most of you know, as my co-host for our All Things Books and Publishing that we do on Wednesday, and a new author. His name is Dale Vale. He does spiritual inspirations, and he will be sending me his manuscript to put him out there. Welcome, Dale. We are so excited that you are with us. Can't wait to get you on our Facebook page. Can't wait to add you to our family. He is an amazing human being. The more he talked, the more we all just fell in love with him. And the funny thing about this business and about what I do is where I live, people didn't know what I do. They didn't know my background. They didn't know I've been on the ID channel 8 times, twice in Europe. They didn't know that I have been published for over 20 years. I've been in this business for over 20 years. They thought Murder in the Village was my first book. That's a whole new audience out there because now they're saying, what else can we read? What else do you have out there? They didn't know I wrote 3 True Crimes. They didn't know my background. They didn't know my degree. They didn't know what I used to do for a living because, ladies and gentlemen, I don't brag about myself. I don't have to. I leave it for others to do, like my beautiful son and my beautiful daughters. They are the ones who tell people about me. I say all that to say this. While all of my books may not be for everyone, while all of Andrea Dean Van Scoyo's books may not be for everyone, while Sherry Ann Richardson's books may not be for everyone, and the list goes on. Jason Wolfgang Gerhardt, The Ferryman, his book is fantastic. But they may not be for everyone, and that is okay. But what we're asking for you on social media to do is, you know, someone who likes the way that Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc writes. She writes Gothic. She writes horror. She writes off-the-wall stuff. Sherry Ann Richardson, she's a homesteader. She writes about building homesteading, cocoa, where it came from, how it was used in history, how you can build a garden using chocolate flowers, how you can bake using the cocoa bean. And I'm not talking about the store-bought chocolate. I'm talking about the true cocoa bean. How you can grow it, how you can bake with it, how you can do all these things with the cocoa bean, and it's all from her book, A Chocolate Lover's Garden. While that not might be for you, it might be for someone you know. Buy it as a gift. Recommend it. Under the Dragon's Eye is about someone being taken in by the mob who becomes a patsy for a murder. That might not be your spiel, but I guarantee you someone out there you know reads that genre. Kim Carmichael writes romance. Trophy Doctor might not be for you because you might not read romance, but you know somebody that does. What I'm saying is, all these books that we produce, you know somebody that reads them if you don't read them yourself. You might not read true crime, but I guarantee you, you may know somebody in law enforcement that does, or has a love for true crime, that reads true crime. You may not read children's books, but I guarantee you, you know somebody that has wee ones that would love to hear about Sally's Heart, that would love to hear about Cornfield Flyers in East Tennessee, that would love to hear about my Angel book. You may not have been in a domestic violence relationship, but I will guarantee you, you know somebody that has been or still is. Gwendolyn Law's book, September's Chill, they need that book. You may not read historical fiction, but I guarantee you, you know somebody that loves history and loves historical fiction and would love to read A Mad Hatter and A Voice from the Grave. You may not like spiritual inspirational books for women, but I guarantee you, you know somebody that would love Peggy Engler's books and Nalta Desanoid's books. Both of those are spiritual inspirational books for women that can be used in a women's Bible class. You may not read comedy, but you know somebody that does. You will find those in the When Fates Collide series. When Fates Collide, When Fates Collide Mardi Gras Bound, When Fates Collide Arm Candy. I co-wrote those with Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc. You might not read drag queens, but I promise you, in your sphere, you know somebody that is either in the LGBT community, or you know somebody who loves to read about drag queens. Comedy. The Pink Canary introduces you to my drag queens. You will find them in When Fates Collide Mardi Gras Bound, When Fates Collide Arm Candy, Shady Rest, A Cozy Murder Mystery, and Murder in the Village. Both of those books are dramedies. Drama and comedy combined. They're dramedies. There are so many books that our authors write. Mary Brotherton is releasing Faith and Folly. It is a book that is basically a memoir. It's things that happened to Mary. It's decisions that Mary made that may or may not have been a good decision. Could have turned out bad, but turned out basically good. That one's coming out. You may not read drama. Tangled Minds is loosely based on my oldest daughter. It is about a young woman who makes very bad decisions and the results of those bad decisions, the consequences of those bad decisions. But I guarantee you, you know a young woman who's struggling. What I'm saying, ladies and gentlemen, is just because you might not read a certain genre, I know you know someone that does. I had an airport run yesterday morning at 7 o'clock in the morning. And Murder in the Village came up because it is the talk of this village. And one of my passengers said, well, what about my book? And I said, you write? She says, yeah. I said, how long has this book been out? Well, she gave us a copy of her book. I said, Lori, let me redo your books. Let me get you out there. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Putting a book out there by yourself is difficult. I've done it. And if you do not market that book, if you do not promote that book, all it's going to do is sit out there with the millions of other books that are out there. I've had people say, well, I want my book in Barnes & Noble. I want my books in Books A Million. I want my books this way. I want a literary agent. I want. Okay. I've been down that road too. So my first question is, do you want to blend in or do you want to stand out? You are the brand, not your book. Your book is the product. And a perfect example of that is the conflict that is going on with Cracker Barrel right now. Anybody that has seen Cracker Barrel's logo knows what Cracker Barrel is. It's the nostalgia of an old hometown country restaurant where you go in, you sit down, and they bring food out in bowls and set it on the table. I was raised in the South. That's how we do it in the South. It is a Southern tradition. You know the logo. You know when you see the huge sign that stands 150 feet tall and you see the word Cracker Barrel and the Cracker Barrel and the old man in the rocking chair, that it's nostalgia. Well, some CEO who lacks marketing skills decided to change the logo and just put the word Cracker Barrel. Ladies and gentlemen, and they went in and redid the restaurant. What they did is they changed the brand. Not only did they change the brand, but they insulted most of us. That given, back to Midnight Publishing. You as the author are the brand. Never change your brand. You can reinvent it, but your basic brand, your brand, which is you, stays the same. Your book is the byproduct. So if you put your book out there and you do nothing to promote yourself, that book is going to sit there. Because people want to know the author. They want to know you. When I first started this, when social media first came out, I was one of the first ones to create a MySpace page. And I'm telling my fellow indie authors, you need to put yourself out there. Go create your social media page. Go do this, go do that. And they're saying, but I don't want people to know who I am. Ladies and gentlemen, that's not the way it works. Trust me, that is not the way it works. If they don't know who you are, they don't know your product. I learned that many, many years ago from a man who was in the HVA business for over 60 years. That was my father. A handshake and a business card is all he ever had. And when he retired at the age of 80, he was still doing business with his original customers' great-grandchildren. So when I ask you to get a Facebook page, when I ask you to join the Midnight Publishing page, when I ask you to join all of our social media pages, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, our WordPress website, YouTube, when I ask you to join those, there's a reason. I need for you to promote those pages because that's where I put you. So, that being said, when my passenger gets back in country, we will be bringing her on board. She is a self-help guru. She's got a wonderful little book out there. She's got several. We will be bringing her on board, and we will be promoting her and teaching her how to promote herself. At a meeting with Mary in Melbourne last week and on our Wednesday podcast, Mary and I are going to find a venue that they will let us do it for free, and we're going to do a little workshop on what we require as publishers for you to send us your manuscripts. What we want you to do as authors to help us make you successful. We can promote you all day long and twice on Sunday. Trust me, and I do it. I spend hours and hours and hours and hours taking care of my authors. Do I charge them for it? Absolutely not. I do not charge my authors. They retain the rights to their books. They get their royalties. Am I going to send them $1.20? No. I let it bank until it builds up because I want them to see the fruits of their labor. But we need your help. We need your help to help promote yourselves. Because, ladies and gentlemen, if the readers don't know Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc, they don't know Gwendolyn Hall, they don't know Mary Brotherton, they don't know Linda Murphy, they don't know Kim Carmichael, they don't know Jason Wolfgang Gerhardt, they're not going to buy the book. Make yourselves available on your social media page. Encourage people to follow you, to friend you, to communicate with you. Encourage them to write reviews on your book. And if you get a bad review, honey, we will make it fun. Trust me, I got 3 on Murder in the Village. And when I talked about, 2 of them were personal attacks. One of them was semi-well written, except it had a lot of run-on sentences. Turn that review around to work for you. I do it on a regular. Have fun with it. Number 1. Oh, there they go now. Number 1. It's only words. And everybody, well, not everybody. Some people want to be a critic. That's okay, they can be a critic. But understand this. You know your character. You know who you are. That they can never change. And when people speak negatively about you, that says a lot about them. If the book is not for someone, if they personally, that is not their genre, that's okay. But turn that review around to work for you. 10 years ago, I would have been personally offended. But all I could do was laugh heartily because I'm still looking for JD, because apparently someone here in the village says I have a lover called JD and his code name is Coffee. So if any of you out there in my sphere know who JD is, would you please ask him 2 questions? Can he afford me, and will he put up with me? Because in the second review of Murder in the Village, and there was no mention of a JD in the book at all, this person said, I have a lover named JD. So please help me find him, because if he's not worth my time, he needs to go find him someone else. Most men are not, because when you've had the best, the rest is just the rest. And this is how I turn reviews around. This is how I make things fun. This is how I sell books. If you are interested, if you have a story to tell, and you say, how do I write a book? What do I do? We will help you. These are the main things that I need when you send me your manuscript. I need it by chapter, with each new chapter on a different page. I need it in 12 font, and I need it in New Times Roman. If you don't know how to size it down to a 6x9, that is not a problem. I can do that. Please do not send me Google Docs, and please do not send me 1 chapter at a time, because what I have to do after that is I have to take and copy and paste those chapters onto a completely new Word doc, and things get lost in the translation. Send me a completed manuscript. That's all I ask. If you don't know how to do the 12-point font, and if you don't know how to do New Times Roman, that's okay. I can fix it. But Mary and I are going to offer a free, get that, a free class on what we require. That's coming. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you to my authors, Jason Gerhardt, Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc, Kim Carmichael, Mary Brotherton, Linda Humphrey, Sherry Ann Richardson, who I'm so proud of, Peggy Engler, Alta Desanoid. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And we mustn't forget Isaac Jones. He wrote a children's book many, many years ago, which is now a coloring book, and it is up on Amazon. Go get it. It teaches life's lessons. I thank you for your trust in me. I thank you. I am so humbled for your belief that we have a purpose. Help me help make you successful. And we mustn't forget, there's a new book of mine in the works called Duct Tape, Tarp, and a Shovel. It is second in the series of Murder in the Village, and people are still clamoring to be in the book. So, trust me, ladies and gentlemen, if you've asked me to be in the book, if you've asked to be a specific character, you'll get there. Because that makes me smile. Because you all want to be in perpetuity, out there forever as a character. And while I'm at it, I have to thank Vicki Lang, Peter Fundura. Those are real people who are characters in the Pink Canary book, along with Lola, aka Lou, who is a drag queen by night and a private detective by day. Or is it the other way around? I don't know. But Vicki Lang shows up as herself. She is a premier drag queen, and she deserves so much credit for making the Pink Canary the book that it is. She immersed me in that culture in a way that I can never, ever pay her back. Peter Fundura is a friend of mine who always wanted to die in a plane crash so he would be famous, but he is now famous forever and a day as Penelope in The Pink Canary. And all three of those characters are in The Pink Canary, When Fates Collide, Mardi Gras Bound, When Fates Collide, Arm Candy, Shady Rest, a cozy murder mystery which brings in three new characters, and the latest, Murder in the Village, which they would not let me finish until they showed up. They are a hoot. They stay in my head all the time. So if you want laughter in your life, you have to read those books. If you like true crime, and I mean true crime, these books are not for the faint of heart. These books are not watered down. These books are raw. They are dramatic. They are heartrending. They are disgusting. And I say that in the kindest possible way. The Last Rites, which talks about a murder that took place in Fort Pierce, and the body for a year was listed as a Jane Doe. Silent Scream, which talks about Gerard Schaefer. That book has been on the ID channel many times, once in New Zealand, once in France. It is the victims of Gerard Schaefer, who started his killings in 1969 and was finally caught in 1973. He was a cop, because during that time, and I've gotten a lot of kickback on this, people have to understand during the 1970s, there were no background checks run. Everything was done by a handshake. He lied. He forged a letter and was put on Martin County Sheriff's Department. The man was a consummate con artist. The last true crime is Justice for Cindy. Now that book, I highly recommend all three of them. This book is about the injustice that was given to the family of the victim when the perpetrator who murdered his wife in cold blood was let out of prison early by their justice system in the state of Oregon, which has the most liberal laws in the whole country. When he got out, he went to live with his daughter, who he'd not seen in over 30 years, and proceeded to commit yet two more crimes. He molested his granddaughter and her cousin. He went back to prison and was released again to reoffend. Again, these true crimes are raw. They are taken directly from the files. They do not talk about what the victim's favorite color was, who their high school friends were, how pretty they were. This talks about what happened to them and the results of the constant and permanent damage it did to the families. So if you're looking for a watered down version, or if you're looking for excuses for the criminals, you're not going to get it in these books. Just saying. If you're looking for the reason of why I write and why I decided that what teachers told me I didn't have to believe, read Dreamcatcher. Failure was never an option. If you are the parent, the friend, or the sibling or grandparent of a child who is challenged, read Dreamcatcher. Failure was never an option. I have a brother who was born in 52, and my mother was told he would never amount to anything and he needed to be put away and forgotten. She could have more kids, just replace them like you do a pet. Somebody forgot to tell my brother that he would never be anything. My brother Stan survived many obstacles, overcame bias, overcame bullying, overcame prejudice, and became very successful because he believed he could, so he did. For many years I was told I couldn't, so I didn't. He is my inspiration. He is the reason that I refuse to give up. He is the reason that I want to help make you successful, because I believe you can, so you do. You should. Never give up. If you want to have some stories that talk about how others have grieved through loss, grief is a personal thing. Not everyone grieves the same, and not everyone reaches the stages of grief at the same time. Loss is permanent. The feeling of loss never stops. The feeling of grief is always there. Read Pennies from Heaven, because it is stories of other people's loss and how they dealt with it. How you deal with loss and grief is your grief, your loss. And when somebody says, "Isn't it time to get over it?" that's a big no. Because we never get over loss. We move forward. If we get over the loss, it means that person never existed. So when somebody says, "Isn't it time for you to get over it?" just look at them and say, "I will never be over it. I will learn to move forward, but I will never, ever be over it." If you want some spiritual inspiration, read Soulful Inspirations. It was the first book that my fellow author and friend Peggy Engler and I co-authored. It will give you some inspiration spiritually. If you want just books for fun, read When Fates Collide that I co-authored with Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc. Start with When Fates Collide. It's a short little book. You can read it in about 2 hours. Then go to When Fates Collide Mardi Gras Bound and When Fates Collide Arm Candy. Shady Rest. If you ever want to move into a assisted living and look for nefarious acts, my 3 characters will teach you how. So with all that, ladies and gentlemen, I will close this live, but I want you to know that I want my authors to succeed. I love my authors. They're very special to me. It's very humbling that they trust me with their books and with their marketing. So until Wednesday, on our podcast, Mary will not be in town, but I'm bringing Andrea Dean Van Scoyoc. It will be a live podcast. It will show up on Off the Chain. It will show up on YouTube. And then it will go up on all the social media sites. So join me Wednesday morning at 11 o'clock when I sit down with Andrea and we talk about all kinds of things. Who knows where this will go? And until then, I will say adieu. Enjoy reading. Share the books. That's how we make money.